Aaryn from Aaryn West Studio. Today I'm sharing this time-lapse painting. Come with me, let's go. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me again. In this video, I'm sharing my process on this loose watercolor floral painting. I'll tell you a little bit about my materials I'm using, as well as my thought process as I lay down the elements in this floral bouquet. So here you see me setting up my workspace before getting started. I've got my favorite paints, my trusty watercolor inks. I've picked out my color palette, and you can see I've put a few drops of each color into two different wells on my paint palettes. One of those wells will stay concentrated, and to the other one I'm using my paintbrush to add water in to get a more diluted version of each color. Okay, I've got my 7 colors all set up for this painting. I'm starting out with my larger round brush in size 12. I don't have an exact plan for this design, but I have a few general guidelines I typically follow. I won't call them rules, but maybe we could call it a formula for how I approach a lot of my watercolor floral paintings. I generally like to start out with a bigger brush with some softer diluted version of the colors when I'm laying down the first few layers. I also like to start with 1 or 2 big main focus flowers, and then I start building outward from there, adding some smaller additional flowers, making sure to bring in some of the accent colors in my paint palette. Okay, so here's the part where I tell you about my Etsy shop, where I'm selling greeting cards, high quality art prints, and original watercolor paintings. But if you know me well, you probably already know those things. What you don't know is I have some exciting new categories coming soon, including lined notebooks and some one-of-a-kind tie-dyes. You can find the link to that below in the description, so definitely check that out. Now back to the video. Now that I have my 2 main flowers down and a few little buds around it, I'm starting to add in the foliage. I'm especially fond of this ink color I'm using for the leaves. It's called Tobacco. It's more on the brown side, but it's rich and it's earthy, and I really like the balance that it brings, especially when I pair it with the brighter poppy ink colors for the flowers. I tend to use my 2 smaller round brushes when I'm adding in the stems and leaves. They're size 8 and size 4. Size 8 is really versatile and can give you the fine details or wide strokes, depending on how heavily handed you are. And size 4 is really good for smaller details. It's more of a fine liner. With a good portion of my foliage laid down, I'm going to go back in and fill out the layout with some supporting elements. I am a maximalist at heart, and white space tends to make me a little bit nervous in my own work, but that's really a personal preference. And since I don't have an exact plan for this painting, I'm running more on intuition for this one. If you watch closely, you can even see my hand hesitate a couple times throughout the video, especially towards the end, because I'm thinking about what element to paint or what color to use next, so that's part of the process. As I'm getting closer to finishing this piece, I'm using my smallest brush and the more concentrated ink colors to add some final flourishes and detail. By now the ink on my 2 biggest blooms are starting to dry up a bit. This allows me to go back over them without bleeding colors and having colors blend in together everywhere. I love the wet on wet blending that the inks provide, but if the paper is still wet or even damp, you won't be able to get those sharper, clean details. And I find that these last layers can be really critical for adding depth to your illustration. It'll really enhance the final outcome of your work. And here is where I thank my amazing Patreon subscribers. Behold their beautiful names, for their support helps me in my quest to do more of what I love, helping me bring videos like this to you. So if you like what you see and you've made it all the way to the end of the video, then head over to Patreon and check it out. There you'll find access to cool perks like full-length videos and my Card of the Month Club, which you don't want to miss. But really, any support is a meaningful gesture and will get you your name thrown up at the end of every video like this. So definitely link in the description. Go check that out. Thanks and see you next time. Bye.